Okay, here I am. Take two on the going live. I don't know what happened. I'll have to figure out the technology later, but if you're not catching this live, that's okay. It gets recorded. You can always watch it later. I was really excited to go live today though to do my annual my annual year in review. So this year, reviewing 2021. This is something I started doing a few years ago, really, just because I felt like I didn't always see the progress in the minute of what I achieved for the year. So sitting down and doing it, and actually sometimes I do this on like a quarterly basis, but just sitting down and like really reviewing the progress I've made, and it really just helps lift my spirits and then it also helps me set my goals for the next year. So let's just get down to it. Actually, I have quite a few talking points for today, but first let's just go over the highlights of my 2021. Oop, that was my tripod, sorry. Cool. So I would say overall 2021 like exceeded my expectations. It's not hard considering 2020 was what it was, but coming out of that I really didn't know what to expect, especially in my travel life and what that could look like. So I started the year in 2021 in Playa del Carmen. I spent the first 2 months there. I got new veneers right here, which I'd been wanting for a really long time. I did those in Mexico, made a video on them. You're welcome to go check that out. I came back home, got vaccinated. Yay! That meant I could kind of go back to traveling and living my life like normal. And then I spent 3 months in New York City this summer house sitting, which is what my plan was when the pandemic hit in March 2020. I'd only been there for like 2 weeks when it started, so I didn't get my 3 months out of it. So I was able to go back and do a redo there, which was awesome. See a lot of friends there during the summer. It was great. Then at the end of my time in New York, I actually landed my dream job with Hacker Paradise as a community facilitator. So many of you probably don't know, but I actually, when I left my job in 2017, I was applying for jobs like this, and I applied maybe 3 or 4 times over the last few years and never really got anywhere. So to be able to actually like apply and get the job was a really great, I worked really hard for it, I guess, right? Like I kept building up my skills to get that job. So getting it was great. I went on my first all expenses paid trip, like resort style with my sister. My sister treated me to that, so that was nice. I spent 4 months in Africa. Hi, Patricia, Merry Christmas too. Thanks for joining me on take 2. Going over my highlights right now for the year. So I was able to spend 4 months in Africa. So I never even been to Africa. I never even thought I would get to go to Africa as soon as I did. So that was exciting. And then I achieved all of my goals that I set out for the beginning of 2021. And actually it was weird. I achieved most of them by like September. I don't even know how I did that, but I did. And then I kind of was a little lost in September, like what I wanted to achieve for the rest of the year. But yeah, so that was really cool. And it also tells me I need to set bigger goals for next year. So also in 2021, the countries that I visited were Mexico, the United States, Dominican Republic, Greece, Canary Islands, Kenya, and South Africa. And of those, 5 were new countries. I think my goal for last year was to visit 2 new countries. And I thought, coming out of pandemic, that was probably like a good goal. I had no idea I was gonna get to visit 5. So when I look back, not just at my highlights, but when I look back at the changes that actually happened and did, my business was a really big part of that. There were a lot of changes this year, and really I had been really wanting a lot of changes in my business. So my main goal for 2021 was I was just spread way too thin, and I didn't feel like the effort and the time and energy I was giving, I was like really getting back what I thought I deserved. And I knew part of that was I needed to quit splitting up my focus so much. So there were a lot of things that I had to do within that to kind of strategically kind of focus my energy and my time. So the first huge accomplishment I made, hi Walt, welcome back. Glad you made it. The first huge accomplishment I made in 2021 was monetizing my YouTube channel. So if you're here watching, thank you so much. It really meant a lot. It was a lot of hard work to get there, and it was really, really exciting and what I needed to kind of like keep going. I also, in my freelance business, so many of you know I was an online business manager before I became Hacker Paradise facilitator. I really just needed a more singular focus. So while my clients were similar and my jobs were similar, I was still giving my attention to too many people. So what I really needed to do was replace some of that income. So getting that job really helped me narrow down my focus. And then also getting my job with Hacker Paradise really helped me narrow my focus into like my lifestyle and what I do and what I like to do, which is traveling, nomading, talking about traveling and nomading, working remotely, and helping people live that lifestyle as well. So being able to sort of downsize my freelance business and really step fully into that lifestyle was just like such a huge energy shift for me back in like August. And then, yes, and also around August, I launched my new Digital Nomad coaching program, which is still open. You're welcome to apply if you are looking to become a nomad in 2022. We walk through all the things you need to know to make that transition. And then another really big thing I did in my business was I took a break, which I hadn't done in a really long time. I'd worked out really hard and constantly. And once I got to September, I was finished training for my new job. I was on my first site. I decided to take a break for my YouTube channel, and I did. I didn't film for like 3 weeks, and I didn't post anything, and I didn't do anything. And that was a really hard decision, but it was the right decision, because what it also allowed me to do during that time was to stop and refocus and think about not just go, which I think happens as a nomad a lot. You get so stuck in the momentum of like planning the next trip and going to the next place and doing the next thing. And what I was able to do at that point was to stop and take a break and really refocus my energy and what my channel wanted to be. And so now my channel mainly is Digital Nomad Destination City Guides. So the different places I'm going, I'm recording and figuring out what it is that you need to know before you get there, or what are the things that you would research. And I'm doing it for you, and I'm putting it all in bite-sized chunks and 4 to 5 video series for each destination that I'm visiting. So that is what my channel is all about now. So the other thing that I do every year is I pick a word of the year. So my word of the year for 2021 was engage. And that meant a lot. So I think there was definitely some disconnect between lockdown and pandemic and things like that. So I really wanted to focus on engaging in my community and the people around me and the relationships that were around me and building new relationships. So people had a lot to do with why I came up with that word. But also it just meant like engaging in online communities, right? I mean, engaging in my everyday life and the things around me and not being disconnected from like when I go to the beach, like, oh, I'm just at the beach, I'm hanging out, whatever, but like actually like physically like allowing myself to be present, I guess, engaging in the presence. And they're just engaging in different areas of my life to improve them. So overall, I would say like huge success in that area. Being a part of the Hacker Paradise community has been a really big part of why I feel like engaging has been successful. So 2022, my new word for the year is going to be grow. So now that I've engaged, now that I have learned more strengths and weaknesses and what I want and what I don't want, I feel like 2022 is going to be just a huge year of growth. Growth in myself, growth in my business, growth in my financial literacy. That's something I really, really want to focus on for this next year. And just like growing in relationships in general. So I know what the work is now, and I'm really excited to tackle it, and I'm really excited to see where I can go in the next 12 months. So my reflections, what did I actually like also just take away from this next year that I can continue to take with me next year? So the first one is just to take breaks. So I mentioned that I took a break from YouTube. And, you know, for a platform that idolizes consistency and just, you know, putting out content, it was a really hard decision to step back and just not record anything. And I didn't even have the motivation to record anything. And so taking a break from that, allowing myself to be creative, allowing myself to really think about what I wanted was a really good start. So I would say I need to take more breaks in 2022. Make changes when needed. So I made a lot of changes. I downsized my freelance business that I had built up for the last 3 years. I launched a new coaching program. I took on a brand new job, and I visited a whole new continent that I had never been to before. 2021 was a year of really big changes for me, and I embraced them, and I wasn't afraid to make them. And they felt really good, and they were all really organic, and the timing was right. But I think you can't be afraid to make changes, especially when you are trying to achieve your goals. And then the last one is just that life is to be enjoyed. I mentioned I felt kind of lost in September. I didn't know what I was doing with my YouTube channel. I'd started this brand new job. I'd reached kind of all my goals for the year, and I was like, what do I do? I remember sitting there being like, so if I don't have a goal to achieve, what am I doing? And so that also allowed me to just stop and be like, just enjoy where you are at the time as the Canary Islands, enjoy the people you're with, like enjoy creativity, enjoy journaling, just like find other things to do that don't have to do with like your side hustle or working or, you know, trying to always achieve a goal. So I would say those are my reflections, and those are my takeaways from this last year. So yeah, that was a lot. But yeah, I would say overall, yeah, 2021 exceeded expectations. So I also want to head into this last little bit here. And I had actually asked people on Instagram if they had any questions that they wanted me to answer and talk about just from either my life or what I experienced for the last year. So the question that I got was, what was the effect of uncertainties linked to constant changes in border control? So, traveling during the pandemic, the ongoing pandemic, if you will, is it's strange and it's challenging, and honestly, sometimes it's really, really stressful. So I was actually in South Africa. I just got back like 2 days ago. I've been in South Africa for the last 2 months, and I was there when Omicron was announced. I was there when the travel bans came down. I had just booked my flight to London, actually like 2 days before that. And so my entire plans changed just in an instant, just like that. So the effect, I would say, is just stress, uncertainty, but also just an understanding at this point, especially being in South Africa. I think it gave me a new perspective that like we have to learn to live with this. So if borders close, you look for the next country. Like the great thing about being a nomad is like, okay, you maybe had your heart set on going somewhere, but you can always go somewhere else, and you can always go back. Travel is a way of life. Travel is what we do. So it's not just one destination and that's it, right? Like you have the ability to be a bit more flexible. In the case of our Brits who were on our program and couldn't go home without quarantining and paying for it, they decided to stay for Christmas. They decided to stay out their visa. Some people went to a country in further like Northern Africa so that they could get home eventually after, 10 to 14 days, whatever the time period was. So I think just learning to be flexible, not letting the stress get to you, not being afraid to call the airlines and try to get your refund, which is what I did. And it worked. I got almost a full refund for the flight I'd booked to London, which then paid for my direct flight actually to the US for Christmas. So that's kind of what happened. The other thing is to also just keep reading the news. So I'm going to Colombia next. That's my next trip. And when I initially did research a few weeks ago, at the beginning of December, there were no restrictions to get into the country. No COVID tests, no vaccination requirements, nothing. And then within 2 weeks, they made an announcement, and it's like, you have to be vaccinated to enter the country or you can't come. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's it. And so, yeah, I mean, that's just another change that's happening last minute. Countries are always changing their rules. So the most important thing is to just keep reading the news, keep checking. Actually, I was reading a guy today who is a nomad. He has a personal system before he travels somewhere. He starts testing 5 to 7 days before he starts traveling, because he doesn't want to find out like the day of travel that he's positive and can't go anywhere. So at least if he tests a few days beforehand, he can actually start making plans, which I think is really, really smart. So I think you just kind of have to figure out like what your personal level of risk is when it comes to traveling and border control, and where you feel like you can go. And then, yeah, I would just say the other thing that I really saw this year and learned was, at least within Hacker Paradise specifically, we have a lot of new participants, but also because they're new remote workers. So I really, really think that this trend of companies working remotely and going remotely, or staying remote is gonna continue. I think it's only gonna get stronger. I think the amount of people who decide to work and travel is only going to increase. They may only do it for a month or two out of the year. You don't have to do it full time. Again, no right or wrong way to be a nomad. I truly, honestly believe that. I'm a huge proponent of remote work and travel and just working remotely in general and living the lifestyle that you want to live. So I think more people are experiencing that. They're getting the support and resources to do that. So many companies were just reacting to the pandemic. And so like remote work, people are like, I don't like this. This is stressful. I don't have the support. But when it's done correctly, when it's done right, and when companies are committed to being a remote first company, then it actually is a nice way to go about your day and get your job done. So I don't see it slowing down. I'm actually really excited to see what new solutions and products and services people come up with to really solve a lot of the solutions, or to solve a lot of the problems that nomads and travelers face. For example, dealing with my bank while I was in South Africa, they were like, you can fax us these details. And I'm like, I do not have a fax. And they're like, okay, you can go into a banking center. And I'm like, I'm in a different country. There's no way. They're like, you can mail us these documents. And I was like, the US is not accepting mail from South Africa right now because of the variant. And they were like, I was like, there's literally no other way to send you a picture of a document other than to fax it to you, which is just absolutely ridiculous. So there are actually a lot of companies out there who are already solving a lot of these problems, but I think as this governments and institutions really start to realize that we're not going away, remote work is not going away, and we are a large part of the workforce and population, I think they'll start creating they're already starting creating like digital nomad visas for certain countries. I think more and more stuff will start to be created. So that's it. Sorry for technical difficulties I had with the original link, but this is now the official live video. Thank you for those that hung around and hung out with me today. If you have any more questions, put them down in the comments below. I can go through and answer them. I hope you all had a really good 2021 as well. You're looking forward to 2022. If you want to learn more about my word of the year system, I'll put some links down below. I've created previous videos and blog posts about how I go about choosing my word of the year and what that means to me. And yes, I hope you all have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and I'll see you next week.